Hello everyone, this is Dr. Ankit Chouhan from Udaipur, Rajasthan. I am going to be talking about the methods of bone transport versus the method of shortening and lengthening in cases of bone defect being treated with Ilizarov method. The first one in this video is the method of docking and lengthening, and the second one is the method of bone transport. So basically, both of these methods they follow the same principles of fixation, same principles of doing the osteotomy and distraction at the osteotomy. They vary just in the manner in which the one fragment of the bone is moving in relation to the another. In docking, the overall length of the bone segment decreases, and the lengthening is done from the different osteotomy site. The length of docking and the lengthening can be different, and the docking can be done acutely also on table, and the lengthening can be done from another osteotomy site. Whereas in bone transport cases, the distraction from the osteotomy is compressing the gap at the non-union site, and both are going on at the same rate per day. So starting with the cases of bone transport, one of the most basic cases, distal bone gap in the tibia being treated with LRS. So the LRS has to be applied in good alignment, and the proximal osteotomy was done. Distraction was done at the osteotomy. The rate of compression at the non-union was the same as that of distraction at the osteotomy. Because the fixator had been applied in good alignment, the overall alignment after the docking and the distraction was complete is good, and final result is good sound region rate, solid union at the docking site, and overall normal alignment of the bone. A similar case, but done with Ilizarov, a distal gap non-union, proximal osteotomy, distraction with Ilizarov fixator, regenerated at the proximal site and docking at the distal site. Now, there are a couple of issues which one can face when doing a long bone transport. First one is the issue with maintaining the alignment. This was a case of infected non-union of a supracondylar femur fracture in a young adult patient. After the docking, there was a large gap. After the debridement, there was a large bone gap which was created, and Ilizarov frame across knee was applied for bone transport. Now, because the field of vision which one gets under the C-arm is very limited, it can happen sometimes that either in AP or in lateral or in both views, the alignment of the proximal and the distal fragment is not correct. So this is not something which is completely unavoidable, but it can happen. So this was, in this case, there was in AP view angulation as well as translation malalignment. So with due amount of time, when the docking was complete, the docking fragment did not dock into the distal fragment at correct alignment. At this stage, what was required was the change in the rods, the docking rods and the distal rods fragment over the distal rods over the distal fragment were disconnected and connected with separate sets of rods. An open reduction was done. The spike of the bone which was hindering the correction of alignment was removed, and bone grafting was done. And a good alignment in both AP and lateral views was achieved. Final result was a good solid union, a good regenerate, and correct alignment in AP and lateral views. Another issue with long transports is that of skin and the soft tissue invagination. In this case, there was a large diaphyseal tibial gap. So first, proximal osteotomy and proximal transport was done. When the proximal transport started to pucker out of to poke out of the skin at the over the transporting fragment, distal osteotomy was done, and the distal fragment, both osteotomy was transported proximally. And when the transport was almost complete, this layer of soft tissue, which with skin and fibrous tissue, invaginated into the docking site, which hindered complete docking of the bone fragments. At this stage, what is required is excision of this soft tissue fragment and some shortening at the proximal and distal fragment to achieve a good closure. Also, one can do bone grafting at this stage, and this is how the complete fibrous plus skin tissue was excised. Some amount of rationing from at the both bone ends was done, bone grafting was done, and primary closure was achieved. This X-ray is on the left-hand side is before the procedure of excising the soft tissue, and this is after excising the soft tissue and achieving docking. And the final result was good solid union and good functions. Now the second method is that of docking and lengthening. The first case here is the case of an infected supracondylar femur fracture with implant. So after removing the implant and removing all the dead bones, a gap of around 8 centimeter was left. One could have done a bone transport method in this case also, but because the soft tissue was pliable and the patient was lean and thin, a decision to acutely dock the gap was made, and the across knee femur frame was applied. Proximal osteotomy was done. The docking was checked on table with in relation to the alignment. It was found to be okay in both AP and lateral views. And gradually the distraction was complete to gain equal limb length. After femur frame removal, a long plate was applied to protect the regenerate in the union site. And the end result was a good functional range, solid union, and equal limb length. Another case, a similar presentation. Here also, acute docking of around 13 centimeters was done. I would like to point out the use of oblique Ilizarov wires in the distal fragment of the femur. This helps to hold the small metaphyseal fragments, and it improves the stability of the frame. One thing to note here in the post-op period was the duskiness which was noticed in the circumferential band around the docking site. This can happen with acute docking when one is doing acute docking to a large extent. So this is due to compromise in the vascularity. So in this case, you have to be cautious to keep some length of the rods extra across the distraction compression side, so that if this problem happens or if this problem progresses, one can distract the docking site acutely without needing to take the patient to the OT. But in this case, this problem did not progress, but it resolved gradually, and there was no wound complication. And with a due amount of distraction, the soft tissue tension released, and length was achieved, and union was achieved. One problem which happened in this case was angulation across the regenerate. It happened because of inadequate fixation in the proximal fragment, and because after 13 centimeter of distraction, these rods across the distraction sites, they were quite large. I should have used telescopic rods or rod sleeves, which which might have prevented these problems. So this then required an open reduction and fixation with plating. The end result was good alignment, solid regenerate, and solid union. So based on these two techniques, when dealing with cases of bone gap, one can use different types of frame assemblies. The first one is a simplest form of frame assembly where with a bone transport. So proximal osteotomy, distal gap, middle ring, and the first to the last ring are connected with single sets of rod. With distraction, the proximal osteotomy is distracted and the bone gap is compressed, and the end result is regenerate at the proximal site and docking at the distal site. Similar cases can also be done with a different technique, where the first and the second ring are connected by different sets of rods, and the second and the third rings are connected by different sets of rods. The advantage of this type of assembly is you can compress the gap site, the non-union site, at a rate which is faster than the distraction rate of the distraction, because the rate of the distraction is something which is limited, which cannot be changed much. So suppose in an adult patient, distal TB osteotomy, one is distracting at 0.75 mm per day, but this is a gap, and it can be distracted at 0.75 mm per day, or 1 mm per day, or 1.5 mm per day, or even 2 mm per day. So this type of assembly gives the advantage of accelerated docking, so that the bone to bone contact is achieved earlier. So the union process starts earlier, and when the docking is complete, the distraction can continue on the distal site to achieve limb length. This is the assembly for acute docking at the distal site and osteotomy at the proximal site. Again, some amount of rods should be left extra across the dissection site. So if there are any problems like vascular compromise or skin wound adhesions, distraction can be done at the docking site. So there are various methods and the combinations which can be used depending on the case and the clinical presentation. One can maintain the length and do a bone transport, or one can do acute docking and do a lengthening at a different osteotomy site, or one can do a partial shortening and then do a transport. And once the docking is achieved, can continue on with the lengthening. Or in some cases, one can even not do a complete lengthening, and if the residual shortening is acceptable to the patient, one can stop the lengthening process when the docking is complete, so that the fixator time and overall treatment time is reduced. Or one can do a gradual docking at the nonian side at a rate which is faster than the distraction rate. The method of docking and lengthening offers some advantages over bone transport. First one is the reduction in the alignment is achieved on table. There is better internal stability because there is bone to bone contact. Because the contact is achieved earlier, so the union process starts earlier. There is no soft tissue interposition, so one additional surgery may not be required. And it also offers the option to aim for union only and not correct the shortening completely. So overall fixator time is reduced. But at the same time, the process and the method of acute docking is risky. So one has to be very watchful in the post-op period. One should look for wound adhesions, any compromise in the circulation, and any unexplained pain which is not relieved by routine analgesics. One should also keep the frame ready for distraction as and when required. And when planning for acute docking, one should avoid straight incisions and instead go for a S-shaped or lazy S-shaped or curvilinear incisions, because straight incisions, when compressed, they try to open up and create a problem in closure. When doing cases of non-unions and gaps of tibia, a fibular osteotomy is required when doing a docking. Acute docking is going to lead to some amount of muscular weakness. So splinting, across knee fixation, and very aggressive supervised physiotherapy is required. And in cases where there is a confusion between two ring sizes, it is always better to go for a ring size, one size up. So if for a case of tibia, one is confused whether to use a ring of 160 mm or 180 mm and planning for acute docking, it would be safer option to go for 180 mm, because acute docking is going to lead to increase in the girth of the limb. But acute docking also can lead to some complications. This was a open fracture of tibia with bone loss and the distal metaphyseal diphyseal region, and the gap was around 3 centimeters. So the primary surgery was acute docking at the distal site and fixation with Ilizarov frame and proximal osteotomy. And the aim was acute docking at the distal site and proximal distraction to gain limb length. But with even 3 centimeters of acute docking, there was a complication with the wound because of compromise in the vascularity, which needed debridement and distracting out the docking site. So from acute docking, the docking site was again distracted out. The wound was left open and it healed by secondary intention. And the osteotomy was distracted from the proximal side with different sets of rods. And the distraction site then was gradually compressed. And the lengthening was done from a proximal side. Overall, after fixator removal, there was good union at the docking site, healing of the wound with secondary intention, and a solid region. To summarize, docking and lengthening, this technique does offer some advantage over transport, but a good bone transport is not an inferior option. Decision whether to go for acute docking or accelerated docking or bone transport should be based on the bone gap, position of the bone gap, the length of the bone gap, the soft tissue condition, swelling, vascularity, scarring, skin defect, etc. There is actually no safe limit for bone docking in terms of centimeters or as percentage of the overall bone length. In some cases, even up to 2 centimeter of acute docking can create some trouble. So one has to be ready with plan B, and one should be prepared to distract the bone docking again. This is all from this presentation. Thank you.